Imagine you've just stopped a student from throwing an eraser across the room for the third time today. You look them in the eye and explain exactly why it's wrong, and they nod. But 10 minutes later, that same eraser is back in the air. Why aren't they listening? The answer usually isn't defiance. The concept of wrong means entirely different things to a human being depending on their current stage of cognitive development. We are going to build a 3-step moral intervention plan. This uses 3 established psychological theories to align your classroom management with how your students actually think. Right now, I want you to recall a recent classroom conflict. Keep that student in mind as we go through these steps. Diagnosing how a student thinks provides the roadmap for changing their behavior. Step 1 is diagnosing the moral stage. We start by matching the student's chronological age and behavioral patterns to Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral reasoning. This pyramid breaks down Kohlberg's theory. At the bottom, we have the pre-conventional stage, which covers children roughly ages 0 to 9. At this level, kids don't care about the greater good. Their sense of morality is based entirely on avoiding negative consequences. For a child in this stage, they won't say stealing is bad because it harms the shop owner. They will say they shouldn't steal because the police will catch them and they'll go to jail. Most teenagers operate in the middle section, the conventional stage. Here, the focus shifts away from direct physical punishment and toward peer approval and maintaining social order. In practice, a teenager at this level behaves well specifically to maintain a good kid image among their friends, parents, and teachers. Their moral compass is driven by interpersonal relationships. There is a common trap here: the developmental mismatch. If you try to lecture a 7-year-old about how their actions disrupt classroom harmony, you will fail. They do not possess the cognitive hardware to understand abstract social contracts yet. They respond to direct rewards and consequences. Correctly diagnosing the moral stage ensures you don't waste disciplinary efforts. It establishes the baseline you need to reach them. Once you know their moral baseline, step 2 is assessing their perspective-taking capacity. We evaluate the student's ability to see the opposing side of a conflict using Robert Selman's theory. Selman's core principle is that a student's social and empathetic skills are strictly bound by their overall cognitive maturity. They cannot empathize if their brain hasn't developed the capacity to hold 2 differing viewpoints simultaneously. Let's look at the egocentric baseline, which covers kids ages 3 to 8. Young children operate under the assumption that everyone else shares their exact feelings, likes, and knowledge. If they feel happy, they assume everyone else feels happy. Between ages 8 and 12, students make a developmental leap to the reflective or third-party perspective. Now, a student can mentally step outside a 2-person conflict and view the interaction as a neutral observer would. This completely changes how you handle disputes. For young, egocentric children, asking, "How do you think your classmate feels?" is ineffective because they cannot yet process that perspective. Instead, you must actively narrate the other child's feelings for them. But for teenagers, the strategy entirely flips. Because they have reached the third-party stage, you can resolve conflicts by explicitly instructing them to analyze the situation from the viewpoint of a neutral observer, like a teacher or a classmate. Assessing perspective-taking dictates the exact vocabulary and questioning framework you need to mediate disputes without causing further confusion. Step 3 is selecting the correct classroom intervention tool to build pro-social behaviors, voluntary actions that benefit others, like sharing, helping, and demonstrating empathy. For younger children, your primary tool is role-playing and modeling. The teacher acts as the moral compass in the room. You must visibly demonstrate empathy and praise the pro-social action itself, like helping a friend, rather than just praising academic achievement. For teenagers, the tool changes to moral dilemmas. You introduce complex, open-ended scenarios like the Heinz dilemma, where a man must decide whether to steal an overpriced drug to save his dying wife. These dilemmas force teenagers out of rigid black-and-white rule-following. By debating these issues, you push their cognitive boundaries toward higher-level, post-conventional ethical reasoning, where human rights take precedence over property laws. For older students, you can also use democratic rule setting. Instead of imposing a list of demands, you allow the teens to co-create the classroom's rules and boundaries with you. This works because students at the law and order stage respect social contracts. Because they actively negotiated these rules, they will respect them rather than rebelling against forced dictation. Aligning your intervention tool with a student's cognitive stage facilitates genuine character development. You now have a targeted moral intervention plan. You've diagnosed the reasoning, checked the perspective capacity, and applied a matched pro-social strategy. These steps provide a deliberate process for forming a student's character. To lock in what you've learned, test your grasp of these theories right now. Click the link in the video description to access the final tutorial question set for Unit 5. A great educator develops a student's conscience alongside their compliance. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.